Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the Tuesday Monday. Get it on. Oh, excited to talk to our old friend Tucker Carlson. After all his news and triumphs and interviews with ex-presidents. This is an exciting time we're living in, Tucker.
Are you really fleeing L.A.?
I think so, yeah.
We've been talking about this for years. I don't know. I mean, there is something kind of great about it, as sad as it is. Maybe you don't flee.
I know, and you keep wondering if we can do a course correction. And as I've always said, the answer to all the people who love L.A. and can't stand what's happening to L.A. is they go, we haven't hit rock bottom yet. And then I say, if you had a son who was struggling with heroin, would you need to see him flatlining with foam coming out of his mouth with paramedics over him with paddles? Or could we just see a few syringes around his room and say, we need to get you help?
Fair. It's a good metaphor and probably not overstated.
No, I think it's it's very accurate. So I'm excited, and I find myself mostly hopeful about this new world order. People like you going out and bringing the truth to the people. And then that sounds, would sound self-serving, so you wouldn't say it. But what I'm saying is you and many other voices now, just in the last 10 minutes, going out there and being able to be a voice. And I don't think you could do what they did to us with COVID just 3 years ago today because of this.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, things have become, we're right in the middle of it, so it's hard to kind of see, the outlines. You're feeling your way through a dark room, but it feels like we reached the very apex of media concentration, and now it's becoming more diffuse. In other words, the internet, I mean, you're old enough, I remember vividly, the promise was diffusion, diversity, every voice is heard, every voice can hear, there's multiples of perspectives, you get to hear them all, and, you get the news that you want. And that turned out to be the opposite of the truth, because the entire internet fell into the hands of a tiny group of like-minded people who crowded out dissenting voices. And that probably reached its peak, I'm hoping, in 2020. And now we're starting finally to see the hope of the internet fulfilled, which is that, people can say what they think. You can know what's going on in other countries in a way that you couldn't before. I mean, I hope that comes true. That really would be a good thing.
Yeah, and and for you, in terms of a personal journey, we talked about, and I'm always flattered that you came in here circa 2017 and sort of looked around and said, I'd like to be more independent. I would like to do what I want to do from where I want to do it. But that was only half the journey, because as long as you're still on the mothership known as Fox, you can do the show from your den, but the show is presented on Fox. So you have independence, but not full independence. But now I feel like the journey is completed with you. It is 100% autonomy.
Well, it's sort of like you talk to these guys who spend a long time in prison and they can't wait to get out and see the trees and feel the air in their cheeks and get laid and all that stuff. And then they get out and they sort of miss the order and the routine and just the security of having someone do everything for you in a regular, reliable way. And I sort of felt that way. I mean, I've been in cable news pretty much consistently since 1995. So, that we're approaching 30 years, and that's a long time. I had complaints about it. I didn't really have that many complaints about Fox, actually. They're always nice to me and let me say what I wanted. But just in general, working for a big company is suboptimal in a lot of ways. And then the second I get out, I'm like, I mean, I don't know if I would have gotten out voluntarily, honestly, because inertia, but I got fired. And I immediately thought, well, this is going to be a blessing. I just knew it. And my wife felt strongly that it would be a blessing. But the first thing I missed was just the order, the regularity, the routine. I sit down at 5:00 in my little, office attached to my bedroom with my dogs and bang out my scripts in the sweaty haste and then go read them on the air and then come home and, tie trout flies or play backgammon or do whatever, talk to my wife. I just had that for so many years that it was weird not having it. But now it's been 4 months. I'm really grateful. I really am, because you can do, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing, but the travel alone has been worth it. I mean, it's just nice not to have to get your trip approved by, some trip approval committee or budget finance or whoever in the giant company I work for made those decisions. You can just go. I mean, the downside is I have to pay for it myself, but it's not that expensive, actually. And it's worth it. And you can see the world. And so, I mean, boy, I've spent a lot of time traveling in the last couple of months. This summer, I never used to do that at all because I was tethered to a show. And you just get a completely different view of the world. The world is reordering. I mean, it is changing at a faster, probably an unsustainably fast rate, as the post-war order, which we've referred to all these years, is literally collapsing. And with it, unfortunately, probably the dollar and a lot of things that we benefit from. It's not all good, but it's certainly all interesting. And you don't get any sense of it here in the United States. You've got an elderly, senile president who thinks it's 1962, and everyone else kind of follows his lead and acts like it is, but it's not. It's the most dynamic moment of my lifetime. And the second you leave our borders, you see that. It's cool.
Do you think about, in terms of the next chapter of your life, to my head, there's kind of two roads you can go. You can go a sort of big network, Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro, Travis, Outkick, and that kind of stuff. Or you can go a sort of smaller Joe Rogan, kind of independent podcasting route. Are you looking to build up a network, or are you looking to just keep it more boutique?
Well, I mean, you can see the truth is I haven't quite decided. I think you do have a tough time when you aggregate opinion voices under one umbrella, especially on the right. The left has no problem doing this. I mean, the New York Times has thousands of employees. All of them know what the catechism is. All of them repeat it word for word. Oh, we're for trans black voices now? Of course, we've always been for trans black voices. Like, they'll say anything. They don't care. They have no dignity, no self-respect, no sort of abstract fealty to the truth. They just don't give a shit. They'll say whatever the team requires them to say. And so it's very easy to get neoliberal voices to sing in unison. It's impossible to do the same with people who aren't neoliberals, whether they're on the far left or wherever they are, whether Russell Brand or you or me, or like, they're always like, no, I don't think that. I disagree with you. So like, it's an inherently difficult project to bring a lot of opinion voices together. You probably could, however, provide a source of more reliable news under one umbrella, with the caveat that you're going to get things wrong, but that you're going to at least try to tell the truth, make a real affirmative effort not to lie. Like, you could do that, and I think the world would benefit from it. And you could probably do it on a subscription model and support it. So that's kind of where I'm moving at the moment. But things are dynamic, and I've got a bunch of travel to do, so it's going to be a minute before I figure it out. But I'm psyched.
Well, I think you think incrementally, or one dreams incrementally. When I was on a construction site, my only goal was to get off a construction site and get a radio job.
Right.
And I always say to myself, thank God there was no deal with the devil to sign, because when I was on the construction side, they said you can work doing FM radio for the rest of your life and nothing else. I would have said, give me that contract.
Yeah,
I don't know how fast I can sign that contract. And then you have some success in that arena, and you go into another arena and you have some success. But then at some point you step back and you sort of go, well, why not have all of it? Right. Instead of being just gainfully employed, why not really go for that brass ring? But that's a process. And I think I've seen you kind of go through it.
Well, it's true. And I look back on because I did a very similar job for decades, it's pretty easy for me to compare different times of my life, since I was doing the same thing. I wasn't working on a construction site when I was 25. I was in the political media in Washington, and I stayed there from 1991 to 2020. So I look back at myself and I'm like, I can't believe, for example, I supported the war in Iraq. Why did I do that? Now, I think to my credit, I went to Iraq in 2003 and realized I'd been completely wrong. And I said so. I didn't continue to lie, but I did go along with things I was uncomfortable with. I didn't ask difficult enough questions, and I wound up supporting something that was really bad for the United States and evil, in my opinion. So why did I do that? Part of it was I was young and stupid. Part of it was, I think, if I'm being honest, this was not conscious, but it's still true, I felt vulnerable. You know, I had at the time 3 kids. I've got a mortgage. Like, do you really want to pick a fight with everybody when you're 31 and you're just trying to like pay tuition and keep your shit together? Maybe you don't. And I think it's an age thing to a certain extent. Like at a certain age, whatever it is, if you're in the same business and you feel like you've sort of done what you set out to do, you're like, I don't really need to impress anybody at this point. I'm not, in debt. Speaking for myself, I'm not rich. I will never be rich. I'm pretty sure of that. But I'm not in hock to anybody. I don't owe anybody anything. And my kids are grown. So it's like, why would I ever lie? I'm just in a different place. And so you can't, it's not that I lied intentionally before. I mean it. I didn't. I never have been in favor of lying. However, I think I did not allow myself to think certain things because they were just too counter narrative. They were like, everybody I knew, the world I lived in Northwest DC, like everyone works either directly for the government or is a parasite on government effectively, including people I love and know really well. And the media is too, by the way. I mean, the media is reporting on government, but it's also dependent on government. In 2008, it became really clear that Barack Obama had been having sex with men and smoking crack. And a guy came forward, Larry Sinclair, and said, I'll sign an affidavit. And he did. I'll take a lie detector. And he did. I smoked crack with Barack Obama and had sex with him. Well, that was obviously true. Nobody reported it, not because they were squeamish about sex or drugs, but because the Obama campaign said anyone who reports on this gets no access to the Obama campaign. And so they didn't report on it. So that happens. That's just one small example, but that happens all the time with lots of different issues.
Now, do you believe that transpired, or do you believe the guy is legitimate, or both?
Oh, the Larry Sinclair story? Oh, that definitely happened. Oh, for sure. I mean, I've talked to Larry Sinclair about it, and definitely it happened. I mean, Larry Sinclair's been in and out of prison during one period. I mean, 40 years ago, he was in and out of prison. He's got a criminal record by definition. He's, poor. He's got a disordered life. He's missing a tooth. Like, he's not, an Atlantic fellow. He's not going to the Aspen Ideas Festival. I think he has a record of deception. Obviously, he does. But this story, if you listen to it in detail, is clearly true. I mean, I'm going to do an interview with him and you can hear it. And again, it's not going to change the world that Barack Obama likes dudes. I think this was well known. Barack Obama said so himself in a letter to his girlfriend. And by the way, that's kind of Barack Obama's business. I'm not attacking him for liking dudes. I'm just saying the amount of lying in the media about it was unbelievable. Like, people knew this was true, and it was quite obviously true at the time. And people who covered the campaign didn't say anything about it because they didn't want to lose access to the campaign. And that happens all the time up and down government. So it's almost like if you have a housekeeper, you think, she works for me. But if you have a housekeeper long enough, you realize, well, you actually work for her, and you get caught up in her dramas. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a weird dynamic where you switch places with people.
And by the way, fire her abruptly, and she'll write a tell-all book about Tucker at home.
That's exactly right. And we don't even have a full-time housekeeper, so like that's not going to be an issue for me. But the point is, you think you're holding government accountable, but actually they're controlling you. That's really the dynamic in Washington. But, you're living in the soup, and it's hard to see it at work. And this is a long way of saying the conclusions I've reached are middle-aged conclusions. And that's a lot of it. Right. It's just that I've gotten older, and you can't see certain things when you're younger. And it's like young people, you'd think they'd be the most open-minded of all. They're the least open-minded because they're afraid of the future. So they want to believe whatever storyline they've been fed is true. Like, the only problem with America is white supremacy, and like our tax system is fair, and Kennedy was assassinated by a lone gunman, or whatever. They don't want to face like the terrifying unknown and complexities of the actual world we live in, the reality of life, which is like, we have no freaking idea what's going on, actually. They don't want to admit that.
Yeah, I would say that's true for younger people, micro and macro, because when you're 31, as you've discussed, and you're working for ESPN, and you don't think it'd be a good idea to get vaccinated because you're fit and healthy and 31, you are making business decisions. It's not about the world's future, it's about your future. You may just have gotten married and had a young child. And
it's totally right. But this is why they hate Trump in D.C., because it is not as simple as like, oh, if I support Trump, I'll lose money. It's that Trump is a threat to the whole ecosystem of bullshit that makes Washington the richest city in the world and its suburbs the richest suburbs. Because once you start questioning things, like basic things like, why do we have NATO? Well, no one can answer that question. NATO is obviously a force for instability and bad in the world, right? But no one allows himself to like update, their perceptions of NATO. It's like, no, they're keeping the Soviets at bay. Well, the Soviets don't exist anymore. So when Trump asks a question like that, nobody in DC can grapple with it honestly, because if we're being honest, their livelihoods are tied up in things like NATO and Head Start and Medicare and failed projects that no one's allowed to reassess because it will disempower them. That's the truth.
Yeah, my assessment of the era we just sort of passed through with an emphasis on COVID was Trump was going to topple the apple cart and disrupt, as you said. The system needs to remain in place, and so they will attack Trump. And then it started to bleed into things like COVID. And what happened with stuff like COVID is, if you said, I'm against getting my kids vaccinated, or I would like to open schools, in and of itself, me having a couple of kids in high school and suggesting that we reopen schools or never close schools is just a subject, and you could have a debate about it, and I think I would win. But the ad hominem attacks on me or anyone who said innocuous things like, I don't want an experimental vaccine, or I don't want to close the schools, or I think the beaches should remain open in California and not closed down. If you really just think about those are just policy arguments. And if you got hold of me a few years ago, I wouldn't know who was on what side of that argument, Republican or Democrat. But now, if you said, I don't want to take the vaccine, I want schools open and beaches open, you have outed yourself as a Trump supporter / Republican. And you don't need to be destroyed because you want to keep the schools open. You need to be destroyed because you outed yourself as MAGA.
It's 100% right. I think you're exactly right. And you see it up and down the system in places that are fundamentally apolitical. I mean, I actually was just this morning with Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, who's like genuinely non-political, like not that interested, but he kind of liked Trump. I think Dave's kind of a liberal, but whatever. He liked Trump at the very beginning, and he said so, and he made the mistake of interviewing Trump at Trump's request at the White House and asked him a bunch of non-political questions about pizza and sports, okay? And again, he's not interested in politics, so far as I can tell, at all. And he's a sports guy. And he said his life changed. Being photographed with Trump made him the subject of like actual hate that, he didn't understand. He was approaching it rationally. He's like, I run a company about college football and wet t-shirt contests. Like, why are you hassling me? But it changed everything for him to the point where people yelled at him in public, and it just blew his mind.
Right.
We just had this conversation, weirdly.
Well, I wanted to play a clip for you because I had Chris Cuomo on this show, and then I was on his show a couple months back. And he made a comment about you, and it's something that I've always thought about. And I think there's I now realize that everything is either narcissism or projection. But I would like your reaction to this clip.
I want your take on recent news of your friend, Tucker Carlson. I believe your friend does what works for him. I think his positions, I don't think that if he had a gun to his head, he would say he believes a lot of the things that he puts on TV, but they work. and he's created an audience for himself and a following. And I would be very surprised if he worked for everybody else, because he has to know on his end of the political spectrum, he can be his own enterprise. He already has the Daily Caller.
I know many what you would call right-wing pundit types, or at least a handful. I know Ben Shapiro pretty well. I know Tucker pretty well. I know Dennis Prager pretty well. I know these guys pretty well. They are exactly as they are in front of the microphone or without the microphone. And whether I think the idea of, he's saying a bunch of stuff he doesn't believe, I don't believe that. He believes what he's saying. So I constantly hear it on the left where they go, well, we don't, he's just throwing out red meat to his base. He doesn't have any, he doesn't really believe that. And I think to myself, as you stated earlier in our conversation, well, how come none of that was going on about COVID? How come none of it goes on about abortion? How come none of it goes about Ukraine? How come I don't hear people on your side with any deviation from the theme and the narrative? Surely COVID, you should have been going in 1,000 different directions with opinions, but you all settled on horse paste and Sanjay Gupta and the people who weren't, the people who didn't get vaccinated were causing the epidemic. I wonder if all that is projection.
Well, it's hilarious to me. At the height of COVID, I was out fishing out west, and somebody said to me, well, I heard that, you got the vaccine. And some liberal said this to me in Jackson, Wyoming. And I said, who said I got the vaccine? Of course I didn't get the vaccine. I don't trust the vaccine. I mean, whatever. You want to get the vaccine, that's, it's up to you. But I'm from California. I'm happy to let other people do their thing, but I wouldn't take that. My family's not taking it per my orders. Sorry. And the guy didn't believe me. So I called my producer back in Washington. I was like, I had the weirdest conversation. He goes, everyone on the internet, which I avoid, is saying that you got the vaccine and you're just lying about it to your audience because you want them to die. I was like, I can't. They called me a conspiracy theorist for pointing out that the CIA had a role in the Kennedy assassination, which they did. I've never had a thought as crazy as that. Who could think of something like that? That's so deranged. I mean, my struggle, whatever, I'm not defensive about it at all. Maybe it doesn't speak well of me when I admit that I believe everything I say with total sincerity. I really mean it. And my struggle is to not reveal everything I think because some of my opinions are stupid or ugly or whatever, but, I'm not pretending at all. If anything, I think I'm trying to seem more moderate than I really am.
Well, I think the reason they always accuse people on the right as spouting off, the Fox sort of party line or Republican party line, I think the reason they do that is really a condescending reason, where you give your feelings on whatever the subject, and then I turn to the guy and go, Tucker's a smart guy, he doesn't really believe, which then makes you de facto sort of a lying nut. And I think
what's
that's
so
what
funny
they want.
is I spent my life in D.C. living next to my brother, who I'm really close to, my best friend, and now we live together again in another state. And so I spent my whole life with my brother, and he spent, like me, his whole life in Washington. So, from high school on, and we go for a walk every single morning with 7 dogs, and we climb this mountain every single morning, and we always talk about Washington, where we spend our lives. And we have no respect for the people who live there. We don't think they're smart. Both of us think they're stupid. And we don't think that because we saw it on the internet. We think that because we lived next to them for 35 years. I have no respect for them at all. Nothing they have done works. They should not be in charge. They're not worthy of it. They're too stupid, actually. So, it's just so funny. The conceit that they're smart, what do they call themselves? I'm a wonk. You think I'm smart? They've never read a freaking book. I mean, these are truly dumb people, and somehow they've hoodwinked the nation into thinking they're experts in something. I literally wouldn't hire Anthony Fauci to do anything other than apply for government grants. That's the only thing he's good at. I would not hire him to run a business. I would not hire him to cure my cold. I wouldn't have him give my wife a pedicure. He's not qualified. Like, these people are not impressive. That's the actual truth.
Well, I want to ask you about Trump, and I have another interesting clip to play for you to get your reaction to. And I'll tell you what. By the way, Tucker, you can find him, Tucker on X, and everyone seems to be finding Tucker on X the last time I checked. So, again, exciting. I have so many questions. Do you think, apropos to sort of this, you did the interview with Tony Bobolinsky for coming right up on 3 years, and it didn't move the needle in terms of the electorate. And CNN and all the powers that be and the CIA and the FBI did a good enough job of getting the letter together and getting the 51 former security experts to sign off on it, and Twitter and, all big the social media and all that. They did a magnificent job of taking that story 3 years ago and burying it. I don't think they could do that today. Do you?
It's amazing to me that any honest person of good faith could look at the facts that the largest and most powerful intel agency and largest and most powerful law enforcement agency in the world, U.S. government agency, CIA and FBI, rigged this election by suppressing that, and just stop there, by telling the social media companies not to permit it, by lying in public. They rigged the election. So how could you, and leaving aside any questions about electronic voting machines, which are fair questions in my opinion, and stopping the count on election night, if all you knew was that, how could you say that was a legitimate election? It's not a legitimate election. And if that was happening in Moldova or Belarus or Congo, the State Department would issue a statement saying that was not a free and fair election. We did not have a free and fair election. And I'm sorry, I don't care if Trump is boring about it or whatever. I'm reaching this conclusion independently based on the facts that I witnessed. That was a rigged election. And I hope that we never have another one, because it's corroding the systems that we need to prevent civil war. So anyway, sorry.
All right, we need to take a quick break. But I have Trump questions, and I have another clip I'd like you to respond to, and we'll do all that right after this. Blinds Galore. Love these guys. Have a huge Labor Day sale. It starts Wednesday, August 30th. All custom blinds, shades, and shutters up to 50% off, half off. You worked hard all summer. Reward yourself with custom window coverings from Blinds Galore during one of their biggest sales of the year. First place you go to buy custom window treatments and do it online. Trust me, they know what they're doing. The only blinds I've ever bought are from Blinds Galore, and it's all I got a new order coming in. So actually getting on the phone with them right after this. Family owned and run, celebrating 25 years of business, designer quality, window coverings without the designer price. And if you have any questions, their expert customer care team will help you every step of the way, either online or over the phone. It's Blinds Galore. Right, Dawson?
You work hard enough. Let Blinds Galore make it easy to get the custom blinds and shades you want in your home. Check out blindsgalore.com during their huge Labor Day sale and let them know that Adam sent you. That's blindsgalore.com. The Adam Carolla Show presents Tucker Carlson's birthday cocktail party for May 16th. Let's see who's here. Let's welcome the inventor of the microphone, David Edward Hughes. American serial killer, H.H. Holmes. Former manager for the New York Yankees and the Oakland A's, Billy Martin. Henry Fonda is here. American CIA officer and spy for the Soviet Union, Aldrich Ames. Danny Trejo is here. From the Chiffons, let's welcome Barbara Lee. The guy who played sax for Bob Seger, the aptly named Alto Reed. Pierce Brosnan is here. Actress Deborah Winger. The NBA's John Sally. Janet Jackson. From Growing Pains, Tracy Gold. Megan Fox. And let's welcome Liberace. Tucker Carlson is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Well, there you go. It's a pretty stacked lineup.
That is so good.
So,
Wow.
Tucker.
Billy Martin. Okay, I'm impressed.
I wanted to talk to you. So I always think about this clip, and I'm sure you've seen it too, where Schumer was on with Rachel Maddow in January 2017 and basically said, why is Trump agitating CIA, FBI, these agencies? Why is he agitating? And then he says the quiet part out loud. They will destroy you, which I think turned out to be a lot of what we saw. But at the very end, it's a little part I missed, and I think we should give it a quick listen.
But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going on. Look at the Russian hacking. Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
Then he goes on to cite something that didn't happen, that the intelligence community cooked up to take down Trump, as an example of why we need them.
I've heard that clip 1,000 times. Every time it renders me speechless. That's the end of democracy. And I don't know how you can, in the same sentence, say, I'm for democracy, and then say, actually, our country is run by a shadowy intel agency no one elected and no one has oversight over. I mean, it's not a democratic republic if the CIA can punish you as an elected president for doing things that they don't like. They're your employees. Speaking of the housekeeper taking over the house, they're like your housekeeper. Shut up and make the bed. Like the point of the CIA, as originally conceived, was to inform the president of what's going on around the world so he can make better foreign policy decisions. So the intel gathering apparatus of the U.S. president, they work for him. They have no constitutional legitimacy outside of him. Our system's super simple. The people who are elected by the public have all the power. They have employees to whom they delegate that power to get things done. But those employees have no independent power at all and no independent legitimacy. The CIA is a totally illegitimate criminal organization unless it is following precisely the orders of the elected president. Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. So he's describing a crime. The people committing that crime in CIA should be in prison for long terms. That's the great threat to democracy right there. And the fact that no one on that set could even see that tells you how deeply corrupted they are. That's terrifying. And it's true, I happen to know. And I could bore you for hours, again, since I spent my life there and know a lot of people who work there. But the bottom line is there's no oversight at all. They were able to participate in the murder of a U.S. president and then hide that fact for 60 years by keeping those documents classified, which they still are. It's unbelievable. And it's happening in front of all of us, and nobody seems to care. But, you know, as the country declines and the democratic institutions weaken, and you wonder, how did this happen? Well, that's how it happened, right there.
What do you think the future holds? Is it...
I don't know.
I mean, are they going to let Trump be president?
No, of course. I mean, look, if, they protested him, they called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him. I mean, they're putting him on trial in March of next year in the J6 case which basically consists of trying to send him to prison for the rest of his life for complaining about the last election. That's literally what it is. Again, if this were happening in Moldova, the State Department would issue an all-hands-on-deck order to let the world know this is not a legitimate government. And yet our government is doing it. It's like it's really hard to overstate how bad this is. And I don't know where it's going, but there's a collision that's clearly imminent. And by the way, the president is senile in a way that's impossible to deny. Biden's not running the government, so like, I don't know, man. I've never been this worried about anything as I am about where this is going.
Well, I think if we sort of break it down into sort of steps or chapters, we have this and then a possible solution at the end of the book. So chapter 1, the government is doing what they've been doing, and we've not been aware of it for most of its existence, and we just sort of went along with it, But the government is big and it's deep and it's very interested in hanging on to its power, and all the agencies we've mentioned before this. That's number 1. Number 2, the part that most Americans didn't see coming is how the media was also very complicit in this and got sucked into the governmental side of it because they're the town criers. They're going to have to ring the bell and inform everyone in the town what the government is doing. So in certain cases, when it comes to Trump and Russian collusion and Putin's puppet, that they need to add a lot of creatine to and steroids to and really build that thing up, if not create it from whole cloth. When it comes to Hunter Biden's laptop, that needs to be crushed and smashed. When it comes to COVID, Fauci needs to be elevated, and anybody in the Great Barrington Declaration needs to be pulled off of Twitter and destroyed. So that's the media, and that's what they're doing. Then that trickles down to the people. And then when you talk to most people, they're really just saying what they heard from the media, who they think is unbiased, but is really doing the work of the government. So now we have a triple threat. We have the government doing what they need to do. They have the media with their marching orders. And then there's the good people of the village who really don't know what's going on. They just watch CNN or they watch Rachel Maddow talk to Chuck Schumer, and they go, well, that must be the way it is, and they get sucked into it and almost can't be blamed because they're more naive than they are evil, for sure, the average citizen. Now, there are people like yourself, and there's all these other entities, and there's all these other platforms, and they can no longer corral everybody. The sheep are getting over the fence. The gate got knocked open. And now there's a lot of different voices from a lot of different places. And really, for the first time, I'm hearing sort of normal, non-political people asking questions about Biden or the laptop or Russian collusion or what their persecution of Trump and that kind of stuff. And the question is can voices like yourself and these alternative media platforms, can they arrive in time to stop it?
That's unknown. Here's my view of it. I think the lies are unsustainable. Lying is always unsustainable. You're always found out in the end, whether in your lifetime or posthumously. But lies are always revealed by their nature, and these lies are so big and so obvious and so stupid that it's going to be very clear to the majority of voters before the election that the Biden administration has no idea what it's doing, that Joe Biden is not running the government, and that it's not working at all. And I think by that point, we're going to have a real economic contraction. I think we're going to be in the teeth of a very tough recession, and that makes everything much more intense. And so if your goal is to maintain power, and if you think once you relinquish power, the problem with criminalizing politics is the people who do it imagine or know that it will be done to them. So once you start indicting your political opponents, you know that you have to win or else they're going to indict you if they win, right?
Right.
And so they can't lose. They will do anything to win. So how do they do that? They're not going to do COVID again. I know everyone on the right's afraid they're going to do COVID and mask mandate. They're not going to do that. They can't do that. If they've already been exposed, that won't work. There's going to be, what are they going to do? They're going to go to war with Russia is what they're going to do. There will be a hot war between the United States and Russia, in the next year. And
really?
Yes, of course. They want it anyway. I don't think we'll win it, but that's a separate analysis. But I think it's a political matter. They need to declare war footing in order to assume war powers in order to win. I believe that. And I think the evidence suggests that's true. So if you're worried about our politics getting like even more vicious than it already is, and people being hurt in our politics, which is entirely possible, you should be worried about the prospect of an open war. We're already at war with Russia, of course. We're funding their enemies. So we're fighting Russia. But I mean, an open battle with Russia where we say we're at war with Russia. I think that could easily happen. I think we could Tonkin Gulf our way into it, where all of a sudden missiles land in Poland. The Russians did it. Our NATO allies been attacked. We're going to war. I could see that happening very easily. So if you're worried about that, you need to put as much pressure as you possibly can on the Republican-held Senate to force a peace, which can be done. The United States could force a peace in Ukraine tonight. We're funding one side. There is no Ukrainian army outside of NATO. If NATO withdrew its support for Ukraine, Ukraine would crumble in a day. So we are the only power in the world that can bring both sides to the table to force a peace, which will be unsatisfactory as all forced peaces are. Like each side will give more than it wants, but that's the only option. Otherwise, I would bet my house on it. We are going to war with Russia. And of course, the stakes are everything, our life on the planet. I mean, these are the two biggest nuclear arsenals in the world facing off against each other. So like, this is insane. They're insane. These are people who think men can become women, who believe that face masks save you from COVID. I mean, these are not rational people. Would they go to war with Russia? Of course they would. Again, they want to anyway. And I don't know why Republicans don't get this at all, but they don't seem to get it. And meanwhile, Republican leaders, and Mitch McConnell's senile too, so I don't even blame him, but all the stupid Republican senators and McCarthy in the House, I mean, it's pathetic. These people are all on board with the war against Russia. Why?
Well, I think it may even be scarier because you say they believe masks work or they believe men can become women and so on and so forth. I don't know that they believe that. I think it may be worse. I think they can say or do anything to hang on to power.
Their view of Russia is very, and I can say this as someone who was, against the Soviets when it mattered, when they existed. But I'm maybe the only person in the United States who doesn't really have very strong feelings about Russia. I'm not that interested in Russia. I don't see it as our enemy or ally. I just don't have strong emotions about Russia. So I look at this and I see true hysteria. Like they've convinced themselves that our global enemy is Russia. And I really think they mean that. And certainly the Republicans mean it. The Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, the low IQ wing of the Republican Party, which is most of the Republican Party, is low IQ at the leadership level. They all think that and they mean it. And like someone needs to slap them awake. You're leading this country to its destruction. We've already lost control of the world. The American empire's in free fall right now, and we're going to lose the U.S. dollar. And when that happens, we're going to have real poverty here, like Great Depression level poverty. And it comes from this war. And I don't understand why no one else can see this, but it's super obvious once you leave. Spend a week in Europe and talk to smart people on both sides. Like it doesn't matter what their politics are, and ask them like, what effect do you think the war in Ukraine has had on American leadership in Europe? Dude. And by the way, Western Europe is our only reliable ally in the world. We only have one real ally, and that's Western Europe. And Western Europe is being destroyed by this. The German economy was crushed when the Biden administration blew up Nord Stream. I know nobody cares, but if you think like long term about this, they're really kicking the legs out from under this country in a way that is not possible to repair, at least in the short term.
Well, speaking of Russia, I have one more clip to play, which I'm always delighted by. And I think you've seen the clip, and everyone's seen and heard the clip, but they forgot about what happened at the end of the clip, which I thought was very telling, which is, and I know it's a subject that's near and dear to your heart, which is us just arguing about race nonstop while we're on the brink of a hot war with Russia and we're just arguing about race constantly, which always feels like part of the plan in terms of a distraction. But I'll play this clip from the October 2020 debate with Trump and Biden. But the part you need to really listen to is the part where they want to get back to the subject at hand.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
questions. If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
Right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
and I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President, you've
We got to talk about race. You're talking about Ukraine. You want to talk about Ukraine? We need to talk about race.
You know, you look back and like people's views change over time. So we're 3 years from that. We're 3 years from the beginning of COVID, and like masks have been, I think, thoroughly discredited as a means of prophylactic protection. College-educated American women have been totally discredited by the behavior of that specimen and many others. The sort of screechy, let's talk about race, systemic racism, whatever, COVID. It's like there's a certain upper-income, college-educated American woman who is despised by like literally everybody in the country. I'm sorry to say, it's just true. It's just totally, everyone knows what I'm talking about. The different awfuls or different names from Karen or whatever, but like everybody gets the category. It's probably 15% of the total American population. They have wildly disproportionate power over everything, but they mostly have cultural power. And it's that kind of like hectoring stupidity. Let's talk about race. Like, I don't think in this next election or any future election, people like that, whoever that moderator was, will ever be taken seriously again. I mean that.
Oh, God, from your mouth to God's ears. Maybe the only good thing of this chapter our country is in is how fast the experts and the college educated are just completely being defunct. They're just, we're never going to listen to Rochelle Walensky again talk about, COVID, any of these so-called experts, not listening anymore to those people. But it was very telling that we try to mire ourselves in race in this country, and it has to be intentional. There's just not enough of it, racism, to go around. And so it's Kristen Welker was the name of the moderator, by the way. So we have to just go back to arguing about race. And I just found it informative that we were trying to talk about Russia and talk about Ukraine in that particular case, but we wanted to get back to arguing about race.
Well, and by the way, nobody actually wants to talk about race. Like, you're not allowed to talk about race in any sense other than, one side attacks you for being white, the other side apologizes for being white. Like, that's the totality of our racial conversation. Like, there are probably some interesting conversations you could have about race. You'd be fired immediately if you even tried.
Right.
I'm not that interested in the topic because I consider race like height and eye color something that, you're not responsible for and you can't change. So, there are certain realities associated with it, but let's accept them and move on. I don't find it that interesting, and I don't talk about it unless I have to. But of course, it's completely a distraction designed to get you not to notice they're looting the country. They're literally looting the country. It's like financial crimes are not really punished. What's punished? Well, questioning the last election, walking through Nancy Pelosi's office, bringing a Trump flag into Congress, that can get you shot to death, no problem. But like making up a fake cryptocurrency and looting $1 billion, well, he's a nice kid. It's like they're looting the country. They don't want you to see it. Fight amongst yourselves while we steal. That's right. Exactly what's.
All right. Well, maybe the late, great Charles Manson had it right. when he was trying to start a race war in 1971 and then take power.
With the help of the FBI. And if you haven't read the book about Manson, it's just an unbelievable. So Manson was clearly, a federal agent's too strong, but a source. There's an amazing book, and unfortunately I'm 54, so I forget book titles now, but I read it last year, called Chaos, maybe? Have you read this?
No, but that sounds like an apt title.
I can't quite do it justice, but there's a reassessment of the Manson family written by a liberal celebrity profiler from LA who started out doing a 25th year anniversary piece, I think for LA Weekly, on the Tate LaBianca killings, and ended up spending the next 20 years writing this book, which I'm sure most of your audience has read. I feel like I was the only person who hadn't read it until my son gave it to me. But it's fascinating. But basically what it concludes with a lot of evidence is that the feds were all over that story. I'm not saying they caused the murders, but they were certainly in contact with Charles Manson. Like there's, it's a lot more complicated than we thought it was.
I have the title, Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s.
It's an amazing book, and it's not crazy. I really do recommend it. And you'll know it's about LA, so you'll know everything in the book and a lot of the people.
One last quick break, and we'll be back with a little more Tucker Carlson right after this. Well, let me tell you about Meter. Still plenty of grilling season left. I'll say it's hotter than snot outside here, man. Plenty of time to spend in the great outdoors. How about the perfect tool to make sure you don't undercook or overcook your meat? Meter, sleek Bluetooth meat thermometer that guarantees a perfect cook every time. It's what you need this summer and next summer and into the fall. Hell, let's beef up those cooking skills. There's a countdown so you know how many beers before it's time to get back on the grill if you're in there watching the game. The Meter app will tell you exactly when to take the food off the grill so you don't open it too soon and you lose that heat. I'm telling you, the key, you don't want to undercook, chicken or pork or something like that, but overcooking the beef just dries it out and ruins it, and that's where Meter comes in. And then freedom. You don't have to stand there sucking up secondhand smoke all day and smelling like a briquette for the rest of the afternoon. Use it in a grill, oven, pan fryer, air fryer, even a rotisserie. It's Meter, right, Dawson?
Barbecue season is still rolling, so get grilling with the best meat thermometer out there on meter.com. That's MEATER.com.
Well, good news. It's O Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Get the most out of your membership. Shop, earn points, and get rewards sent right to your phone or email. If you're not an O Rewards member yet, sign up. It's quick and it's easy. You can do it online or in the store if you like. Just ask one of their professional parts people about joining O Rewards next time you visit, and you can start earning points on your first purchase. Sign up for both email and text and get even more out of your membership. And right now, members receive 2 times, 3 times, up to 8 times O Rewards points on select purchases. Those bonus points can help you get to your next reward even faster. You receive a $5 reward for every 150 O Rewards points, and you can use your reward on your next in-store or online purchase. So don't miss O Rewards Member Appreciation Month now at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store and O'ReillyAuto.com. Tucker, I have thoughts, and you tell me. My new sort of theory is when people are good, they can go out on their own, and when they're not, they have to sort of stay within the friendly confines of whatever structure, corporate structure they're in, or they're 31 years old and they just had a couple of kids and got married, as we alluded to earlier. But seeing voices like yourself sort of leave the nest and go independent and be so wildly successful really it bolsters my theory of when you're good and you have something to say, then you can go independent. And so when you broke off and you got let go and Don Lemon got let go at the same time. And all the entertainment shows were like Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon, sort of both looked at as the face of these competing networks, Fox and CNN, both gone. What's the future hold? I just said no future for Don Lemon because he has nothing to say. He says what CNN says, and big future for Tucker because he's independent, he's a clear thinker, and he's a very clear voice, and people will find him. And I feel that there's a kind of meritocracy that is a field leveling that I'm really thankful for. I'm really thankful that guys like you are going to find a huge audience outside of Fox, and I don't think Don Lemon will.
I don't know. I mean, I've been fired a number of times, and every time I've been so grateful for it. I do think it changes you in a good way. Success is terrible for men, as you know, having been successful. The more successful you are, the more arrogant and stupid you get. And I don't know. I mean, I texted Don. We got fired the same day, and I texted him immediately, and I was like, "Congrats, man! This will be great in the end." I'm kind of rooting for Don Lemon. I don't know, Don Lemon. But in general, I do think I know a lot of not very talented people in television, but I know some talented people in TV who are still there, and a couple of them I've talked to, and it's pretty nice out here. You should come. Part of the way those TV companies work, they're all the same in this regard, is they tell the on-air talent, like, you're a loser, you're nothing without us. They really get inside your head. I'm sure the movie business is the same way. And this is to lower the cost of talent. And they just constantly tell you how bad you are. No one ever says a good word to you. And I mean, I never had that because I refused to talk to anybody in management for many, many years. I never talked to anybody. But most anchors do. And they just feel so bad about themselves and so insecure that they're afraid to go anywhere. I need this stupid company filled with layers of dumb people making bad programming decisions in order to do my work. I mean, they really think that. So it's sad. I'm thinking of one person in particular who's like a legit old friend of mine who works at a big TV channel, and he's famous, quite famous, but they mistreat the hell out of him. And I'm always saying to him, no one's creative in your world. You don't work with any creative people. They're all bureaucrats and functionaries. You are creative. You should leave. If you take a pay cut the first couple of years, no big deal. You'll be happy because you can do your thing. You can make your art, without someone in your face all the time. But he's been so brainwashed that he won't go. It's sad. Ugh.
What's your take on a Wolf Blitzer type? Because whenever I take a close look at his history. Actually, I'm always why would he do this? Why would he say a bunch of stuff he doesn't believe or he must know is untrue? What? He sat there as this sort of elder statesman of news and just sort of lied right through COVID and many other subjects. Why would he do that? Why would he do it to his legacy?
I worked with Wolf for years, never had a problem with him. It was always nice. No one wants to hear it. I'm sure most people won't believe it, but I can tell you, having lived it for many years, it's true. The intel agencies have a big effect on what is broadcast on television and what you see on Facebook and Google as well. I mean, they're all up and down Facebook and Google, as I'm sure you know. And, there are a lot of anchors who, including people I know well and have worked with at different networks. I'm thinking of one in particular, a national security reporter, who was just a mouthpiece for the Pentagon and the CIA and is knowingly telling lies on their behalf. That's very, very common, very common. And I can think of a number of people at CNN who I know for a fact are doing that exact thing. And so, they're reading government propaganda from the intel agencies knowingly. And I'm sure they've got some internal rationale that allows them to get up in the morning and face themselves despite having done something that dishonest. But I'm just telling you, bottom line, I know that is true. I'm not speculating at all. And in particular on the national security stuff, there are very well-known national security reporters, and I'm thinking of one female national security reporter in particular, who just reads lies from the national security state. And it's wildly frustrating. And it would just make me mad. I mean, even if I don't agree with the lies, okay, but even if I did agree with the lies, I would be offended because they're lies. They're lies. Like when CIA and the Pentagon were claiming that Bashar al-Assad used poison gas against his own people. Okay, there was no evidence that was true. I mean, maybe it was true. There was no evidence it was true. None. Zero. And I called them out, and they could not provide any evidence. And yet every national security, and it was a big deal. I mean, we killed a lot of people in response. We sent in missiles and killed a lot of people. We took human life in response to that claim. And it was, as far as I can tell, a lie. And every national security reporter, every channel repeated it uncritically. The Biden administration blew up Nord Stream and, created the largest act of industrial sabotage in history, the largest man-made CO2 emission in history, an environmental crime. This is a huge deal, this happened. And every national security reporter just looked right into the camera and said, well, we think Russia did it. Well, they knew Russia didn't do it. That's a lie. And they knew it was a lie. So I just think, and again, I'm not speculating. I spent my life in this business, so I've seen it. People underestimate the degree to which the people sitting on the news, possibly even Wolf Blitzer, are repeating talking points from the intel agencies and doing it on purpose. It's scary, man. Really scary.
Well, one of the interesting experiments I have for knowing if people are lying is when they say they know something that's not knowable. So they...
Right. It's crazy how many hard and fast political opinions are formed from Wikipedia, which is itself, curated very precisely by the intel agencies, the U.S. government, by liars in order to distort history. But if you get outside of Wikipedia, you can get facts pretty easily. It's not that hard.
Final question. How'd you find Trump in person? It was nice to see him interviewed in a kind of relaxed setting. My take on Trump, and I know him a little bit, is he gets up on the debate stage, he gets so agitated that he ends up kind of steamrolling over his own points.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you're going to debate Joe Biden, you are fishermen with a marlin on the line. Just let out as much line as you want. He will tire himself out, and you can gaff him on board. Do not keep fighting with him. He will collapse his own arguments if you just let him answer your questions.
It's such an insightful, I think because you're a performer, you see that really quickly. But I think it's a very insightful observation about Trump. The more anxious he becomes, the less articulate he is. And so if you want to have an interesting conversation with Trump, and I do, I don't interview Trump, I talk to him regularly, but I don't interview him very often. But when I do, I want to have the most interesting possible conversation. I want to hear the most about what he thinks. And why wouldn't I? I mean, that's kind of my job. And then other people can decide what they think of it. But making sure that the environment is calm, that the conversation is calm, is the key to getting Trump to reveal who he is and to speak in a fluent way that you can understand. And the opposite of that, I don't think anyone read it, but if you're ever interested in seeing Trump at his most anxious and the results of it, go take a look at the transcript of the interview he did in 2015 or 16 with the New York Times editorial board. And he's from New York. He cares about the New York Times. They were mean to him. They were piling on, 10 against 1. And Trump went so dada on them. He went so verbal Jackson Pollock, just spewing paint everywhere, that it's unbelievable, the result. You couldn't understand a single thing he said. It was all stream of consciousness, hallucinatory stuff. And, I could elicit that. If you yell at Trump and call him a racist or whatever, okay, you'll get an answer you can't understand. But I don't want that. And the other point I'd make is that distinct from his ability as a manager, was he a good president? You could debate that. But I like Trump as a person. I think Trump is hilarious. I think he's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. I think he's really interesting to talk to. He's lived a life. He's 76. He's known every single person. What was Jackie Gleason like? He was friends with James Brown. Right. He'll spend 20 minutes telling you about James Brown and James Brown's various wives and his hair. And he's amazing. And I just liked Trump. And, politics aside, and I agree with a lot of his politics too, but as a person, and I just think it's weird when everyone's like, oh, he's so disgusting. It's if you had dinner with Trump, even if you didn't vote for him, even if you hated his views, you would enjoy it. because he's a performer himself. He's a great performer. And he's a warm person, which I like.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the contrast, and I'll give you a compliment because you've been very animated and forthright and done the lion's share of the talking in this interview, which I appreciate because that's why I'm interviewing you. But when you were interviewing Trump, you asked smart questions and then sat back. You didn't make it the Tucker Carlson show, and I think that shows a high degree of skill.
Enough, man.
I know.
I've had my share of talking. I don't need any more.
Well, I'm going to give your vocal cords a rest then, Tucker, as we head past an hour here. I really appreciate you coming on.
I do.
As I get older, I realize conversations with people I like talking to are probably my greatest pleasure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel the same way.
And I have you up there in a very short list of people I just love to have a conversation with.
Well, thanks, Adam. I really appreciate that. That was fun as hell.
I agree. I hope we can do it again soon. And please keep us posted on all the great new and exciting things that are going to enter Tucker Carlson's world. Tucker on X is where you can go, and you can follow him on X and Twitter, the old name. And you can shoot him a tweet at Tucker Carlson as well. TuckerCarlson.com is where you go. And they're very well thought out monologues. And as I always say to anyone who'll listen, Tucker Carlson is a writer. He does a good job of performing, but he is a writer, and I think that's your strength, and that's what comes across in those monologues.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. We'll talk again very soon, I hope.
Thanks, Adam. Great to see you, man.
You too. All right. You can go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. Going to be at the Blue Note in Hawaii coming up September 8th. A couple of stand-up shows there. And then, Las Vegas and Louisville and San Francisco. Just go to adamcarolla.com for all that. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Tucker Carlson saying mahalo.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Hey Adam, Tim from Arizona. I was watching Jeopardy last night, and your picture came up on the screen. It was some category about left-handed people, I don't know. But you really made the big time when you're an answer on Jeopardy. Get it on.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you and Ned Flanders. That's awesome.
Me and Ned Flanders. It's awesome until they have no idea who you are.
Yeah, of course.
Then it gets embarrassing.
Yeah, they're like, they name off three other people that definitely aren't you. Who got the answer? Well, actually, let me rephrase that. What number were you? So they say suspected of left-handedness. Were you the $1,000 question? Were you the $1,200?
I don't.
I believe it was the $2,000.
Ooh,
that's the problem. You do like the Masked Singer, and they go, he hosted the Man Show. Doug Stanhope? No, I'm out of ideas. And then you go, now I feel bad.
Here is your Jeopardy answer.
You have the answer.
This man of many media, including TV's To Catch a Contractor, confesses when he talks about having to use a right-handed saw.
So all they gave you,
and that was pretty much the response.
Yeah.
That was what happened in Jeopardy.
They didn't know? Bullshit, really?
Well, all they said was Catch a Contractor, right?
Yeah.
They had no other shows.
Correct.
So you would only get, all you would get if you were in the clue department. And by the way, my mom wouldn't have gotten this.
Yeah.
No way.
No.
But if you said,
I'm sorry.
If you said, you read it one more time because it's pretty limiting.
Stand by. But I guess there is a right-handed and left-handed saw because of the way your grip palms so there is.
Definitely.
Okay, but in the movie Step Brothers, he says, there's a chip in my left drumstick. There's no such thing as a left drumstick.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
not to shit on the conversation a little bit, but you were the $2,000 question, which means that they definitely make it a little bit harder. So they probably didn't take.
$2,000.
They didn't make.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's got to be a little harder.
It's tough because you would have to know the show Catch a Contractor, because if you didn't, then you wouldn't. And could also be Skip Bedell, who's in Catch a Contractor as well. So this is but if you said Man Show, Loveline, Catch a Contractor, then you could get the question.
But it is very common knowledge that Skip is right-handed. Everybody knows
he's right-handed.
It's the tale as old as time.
But they don't show. But they're not showing a picture of me, are they?
They are.
Well, then you should get it.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Do it. We'll see what happens. Sorry.
This man of many media, including TVs to Catch a Contractor, confesses when he talks about having to use a right-handed saw.
Who is Bob Vila?
All right. So it's all. Who's Norm Abrams? Who's Skip Bedell? Skip Abrams? I've invented a hybrid of guys who work on houses on TV. Jesus. All right. So no one got the answer. Is that what we figured out?
Correct.
We need to find that clip somewhere.
Damn.
Come on, it's a 2000.
Jeopardy's a tough one to find online.
Merv Griffin would get really mad at us for playing that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Yeah.
And they put the picture up there. I wonder who must be some young Indian kid or something.
Yeah, obviously.
Apparently, there's a Chinese guy on Jeopardy right now who is just killing. He's got I think he's on like 17, 18, 19 times. He's the new guy. Completely crushing it, but he didn't get this one.
So they must go full screen with that picture too.
Of course,
they can't just superimpose it over the board.
Well, it usually zooms out from the square, like 2000, and it goes zzz, and it zooms out and then it covers the screen.
Well, right back down to earth.
Yeah.
They didn't get me. The Chinese guy did not get me, neither. Damn. All right. What do we got?
All right, let's do some news. Congressman Eric Swalwell's run for governor of California has come to a screeching halt amid allegations of sexual assault. Swalwell made the announcement on X, writing, "I'm suspending my campaign for governor. To my family, staff, friends, and supporters, I am deeply sorry for mistakes and judgment I've made in the past. I will fight the serious, false allegations that have been made, but that's my fight, not a campaign's."
Now, I know this is super unpopular, but I would take a rapist who was super competent at running California versus a non-rapist who's running California into the ground. And then people go, "Oh, Adam, that's such a horrible thought." And it's like, well, first off, most men who've been around and are in positions of power have something in their rearview mirror that might fall under the heading of this. A little strong arming of an assistant or at a cocktail party or a Christmas party or something like that. That's number one. But number two, like if you went, this guy's credibly accused of rape, you go, all right, how many people are we talking about here? We're talking about 3 people. Okay. Are they alive? Oh, yeah. They went out, they drank. She woke up in the bed. She didn't know how she got there. She had sex with him, but she was too drunk to consent. Okay. But if that guy was wildly competent and super impactful, think about crime. Think about homeless deaths. Think about all the death and destruction that happens on a fucking daily basis in this state. I mean, think about if that same guy was super competent with crime, then he would prevent a whole bunch of fucking deaths because of all the gangbangers and all the catch and release and all. I mean, all right, so that guy did that. So Abigail Spanberger in Virginia didn't rape anybody, but she won't hand over murderers to ICE, and she won't deport people. She runs a fucking sanctuary city, or California's a sanctuary state, right? So you got some fucking gangbanger, and you don't hand him over to ICE, and then you let him out, and then he stabs your daughter on a train. Well, what would you rather for your daughter? Getting drunk and getting raped by Swalwell, or getting the life taken out of her on a fucking train because these fucking incompetent governors run these cities this way? So fuck you. I'll take a guy. Now, Swalwell is not only doing whatever he's doing with his lady stuff that you guys make a big deal of. How about the fact that he's an incompetent dope who lies on TV every fucking day and would take the state further down the fucking road to ruin? He would do what Gavin Newsom is doing and finish the job, meaning finish the state. And no one has any problem with that. I got a problem with that. This part, he can fucking figure that out with his God and his wife and whoever. He's going to get sued, and then he's going to have to compensate these people. Meanwhile, 7 homeless people just fucking died in the street.
This just in, you just recorded a new campaign ad for the relaunch of Eric Swalwell's 2026
That's right.
campaign.
Yeah, he's a rapist with an agenda. And that he's like a car in every garage, a chicken in every pot, and my dick in every intern,
and a passed out chick in every bed.
They Cesar Chavez'd him faster than Cesar Chavez. But they had to know everything about this guy forever, and all the people are coming out saying we've known this for years and years and years. It makes me think of House of Cards. Kevin Spacey, where he would gather flawed politicians, prop them up, and then take them down at the right time that it's good for them. And this is what Nancy Pelosi had this guy.
They needed to get rid of him.
A tool.
They need to get rid of him because they want to maintain power.
And he represented the place where I grew up, so I especially despise the man.
Yeah. To go back to what you were saying, once you realize that you can either get along with people and go halfway up the mountain, or you can hate everybody that you work with and get to the top, you'll go, you know what? I can deal with these people to get to the top of the mountain. That is what I want to get. I want to be the most productive and get the best outcome I can, even if I can't stand these people. I would still rather work with them.
So now Kamala Harris is possibly tossing her dunce cap into the ring.
Please.
Because there's some sort of online campaign or something to get her to run.
If former Vice President Kamala Harris were to launch a write-in campaign for California governor, what are the chances you would write in Harris for governor?
All right, I'm going to show a clip of her because I don't, for first, people are sort of like, well, she was vice president, so this is she was a DEI hire. She's a fucking dope who Biden, because he's Biden's just a coward who just said, I'm going to have a black female vice president. And by the way, she's not even black. I mean, she doesn't even present as black. She presents as Indian much more than she presents as black, but fucking fine. So she's a dope who got sucked into the White House, who did nothing as the border czar, and now she's thinking about gracing us with an appearance in California and continue to fuck up the state with her dumb ass. Listen to me. I'm so tired of everyone with their fucking feelings. She's asked in this clip about the economy, and this is her answer. Now, look, you can say you make all the excuses you want. She wasn't prepared for this, or she didn't know what the question was. I don't give a fuck. She's a politician. She wants to make policy, and she has no fucking thoughts in her head. Yeah. And this is a very basic question. What's going on with the economy? And here's her answer.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress
Hold
for
on, you got to
families.
pause it for a second. First off, it's the hands are all over the place, just like Gavin Newsom, just like his flunky wife. The hands, there's hands everywhere. You can also see her she keeps glancing down because she's looking for a note.
Yeah.
You know, she has a card that says economy on it, or you know, she has one that says border and one says taxes and one says kind of.
Do you think she's killing time right here?
She's doing. When you're doing a TV show and the guy behind the camera, the producer's going stretch, because the guest is running
That's an
late.
interesting question because questions are very interesting.
You can always tell when somebody's eyes go up and they're not really looking at anything.
Right.
That's the gears in their head grinding.
Yeah. You know, run it from the beginning. We'll watch her. She's killing time. She's using her hands and she's looking for her notes. But by the way, if you're going to be the vice president or you'd like to be the president, have some thoughts about inflation.
Yeah, you're supposed to know about this stuff.
Right.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank
Looking
you.
down.
Well, let's start with this.
Eyes up. Up, still up.
Prices have gone up.
Prices are up. Okay.
And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of
looking down, looking for notes.
Bread costs more, the
Right.
gas costs more.
Uh-huh.
And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously. Very seriously. And we know from the history of this issue in the United States that when you see these prices go up, it has a direct impact on the quality of life for all people in our country. So it's a big issue, and we take it seriously. And it is a priority, therefore.
Hold on. It's not such a big issue that I have an answer.
Yeah.
Remember when Gavin Newsom came in here and his big issue was black and brown people don't have access to checking accounts? That's his big issue. I pressed him for 20 minutes on an answer to his big issue. No answer.
They just, because it does, yeah.
Rudy.
Yes.
I got a big issue.
Okay.
Ask me about my big issue, which is left turn red arrows.
Adam, you know, I know you're very concerned and you have a lot of thoughts about left turn arrows. What is your plan to go forward into the future and maybe to get these
I just got back from fucking Utah. They do not ever turn red. They blink yellow. So they're either green or they blink yellow, meaning you never have to stop. You can go when it's green, and then when it blinks, you just stop and look for traffic, and if there's no traffic, you just go. You don't bottle up, you don't pile up, you don't queue up with it red. There's no reason it should ever be red. It should only be green and then either off or blinking yellow. And I would argue if fucking Salt Lake City can figure that out, we can bring it to goddamn Los Angeles.
Okay.
There's your fucking answer. Not arrows. Robin Hood had an arrow.
Some are red, some are green, some are yellow.
William Tell had an arrow.
There was a guy named Errol Flynn.
Dodge made a compact car in the late 70s and early 80s called a Plymouth Arrow.
Yes.
There was an animated series in the early 70s called Me and My Arrow.
Some people spell it A-R-R-O-W. I tend to like A-E-R-O, but listen,
so I take it very seriously. That's a priority for them. Not so much a priority that you'll venture an answer.
Did you notice at the beginning, she was very impressed with when she said stress and stretch.
Yeah, well,
she liked that alliteration, and I really think that if she does launch a write-in candidacy for governor, which there could be nothing better, that will fuck everything up on the other side.
Yeah,
but I'm sorry. I put a tweet out when I saw
She'll have
this.
stress and stretch in a commercial. It's gonna happen.
No, because she was looking for stretch, but she said stress.
Okay.
And then the alliteration.
Right.
Watch it again. Watch.
Okay.
She's looking to say the word stress, but she says stretch. The human mind does that. Watch. We'll play it. Anyway,
What else?
I wrote a tweet. I said, look, you guys all hate Trump. Fine. What about this dope? This is what you're fighting for, this dope. So let's forget about Trump and all his foibles and all his tweets and forget about everything Trump does. You wanted this. And so fuck right off, because I can't listen to you. She's looking to say stress.
Okay.
Watch.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only...
That's the point. She doesn't say anything. Now, here's the real question. Why is this attractive? It is so attractive. I'm telling you, this is the problem with women. Women like this shit. Women like, we're talking about nothing forever and nothing ever changes, but we're talking about it. This is a estrogen influx.
Woo!
There's no other way to describe this, because this fucking never worked in the past. And for some reason, the chicks love it. And you know who loves this so much? By the way, you know who loves nothing talk the most? Yeah. Black women. Black women love nothing talk. And that's why they vote 92% Democrat, because they're the fucking word salad talkers.
Okay, but honestly, how would you fight the argument, though, that Kamala slays?
Yeah. She's brat, right? Is she brat or is she slang?
Yeah. If that was the David Beckham, Victoria Beckham scene, he would just peek his head in and go, "Be honest," and then it would just boil down to her just going, "I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about." But
by the way, the person asking the question has to go, I didn't ask for a description of what inflation was. I asked about how you are going to eradicate it. Or fight it or bring it down. All right, whatever you got next.
All right, so sad day around Carolla One Digital, but television producer and puppeteer Sid Croft, the co-creator of Land of the Lost and HR Puffin Stuff, has passed away. He was 96 years old. I know he was a good friend of yours.
Yeah, it was a very sweet soul, interesting guy. It started because I used to make fun of Sid and Marty Croft constantly because they created some of the worst art ever created.
Yeah,
we really watched, Dawson.
Yeah,
there's a Sid and Marty Croft section in 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks, I think, where all I do is attack them. And then Sid, who's a very gentle soul, who started off as a puppeteer, back when that was a job. And was the toast of Paris, and that like opened for Judy Garland and stuff. Like, I mean, look, he's 96, so he's working in the 50s, you know, and even before that, and so he's been there, done that. Everyone, and he's just an interesting, eclectic guy. His brother, who he doesn't like, was kind of the businessman douche who was taking all the money. These guys, at some point, we're like producing every third show on TV. My argument was Land of the Lost and HR Puffin. It was really Sigmund and the Sea Monster was probably like the worst TV. Some of the stuff is some of the worst art ever created. Yeah. So then I would attack them. And then at some point, Sid got wind of it. And Sid came in to talk about it, and we had a nice conversation. He's a very gentle soul. It didn't change my opinion on my childhood watching their creations, but it shed a little light on the fact that he was this really creative talent. He was a creator. Like, he created all those puppets and all that world. Like, he was more of an artist than he was a comedian or comedic writer. Sure. Like, I didn't think he was like a skilled writer, but he was a great artist, a creative type.
Yeah, it's weird how the scales of justice will go both ways, because you have guys who are very nice and very gentle who make garbage, and you can still look at them as being nice people. And then you have people that are absolute assholes who put out amazing music, movies, comedy, and you can still be able to separate the two.
Yes.
So this is a stat I wanted you to know. I don't know if you knew this or not. HR Puffin Stuff was the first live-action, life-size puppet program. It defined Saturday morning television for a generation. It debuted September 6, 1969. It ran for 17 episodes, with NBC scheduling it for reruns until 1971 due to its success, which is a weird way to put that. Reruns then ran on ABC off and on from 1971 to 1974. They syndicated this thing from 74 to 78, which means for 9 years, they reran 17 episodes, and that's all they made of an HR Puffin Stuff.
Well, basically, TV back then was like somebody giving you a magazine in prison. It was like whatever magazine they had Woman's Journal, and you'd read it 9 times and beat off to it twice. Like you had no choice. I know you want Sports Illustrated. We don't got that.
Sure.
We got Good Housekeeping, and you just fucking you couldn't go anywhere. You were trapped.
Yep.
You have
Those were nice words, but here's your F eulogy.
Uh-oh.
I was on the CBS lot last year, and we were walking to the stage where I was shooting my sitcom. Somebody said, "There's Sid and Marty Krofft's office." Then, with a certain amount of pride, one guy said, "Marty's there. Would you like me to introduce you to him?" I said, "No." He said, "Why not? The guy's a legend." I said, "A legendary hack." The guy stopped walking. He was shocked. He said, "Do you know how many shows Sid and Marty Krofft got on the air?" I said, "I know. I watched them all when I was a kid. Far Out Space Nuts, Land of the Lost, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Artistically vacant, derivative, hackneyed garbage. Basically a big bowl of styrofoam packing peanuts that came in a brightly colored box with a shitty prize in it." He said, "How can you say that? The guy's a pioneer. He's 85 and still at work every day." I said, "Hard at work doing what? Warming over steaming piles of cat shit like Land of the Lost so that a new generation's IQ can be collectively lowered while this imbecile hammers another check?" Then he said, "Why are you so angry at Sid and Marty Krofft?" I said, "Because idiots like you are trying to turn these guys into deities. They're rich. Isn't that enough? They came around during a time when there was no competition and monopolized Saturday mornings with shows like Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. One of the worst shows, nay, one of the worst creative endeavors ever undertaken. And now they want respect? I'll give you 2 scenarios. One is they actually thought they were artists and that the shit they were crapping out on every Saturday morning was good, which makes them delusional hacks. Or 2, as I suspect, they knew they were providing shit. They knew the checks would clear. They didn't give a fuck, which would make them evil hacks."
We'll miss you, Sid. I stand by many of those words.
Yeah.
Their work was horrific, but he was a gentle, kind guy who had a wonderful imagination. I went to his house.
Yeah, cooked you dinner, right?
Cooked me dinner. It was awesome. He had a whole big tree house. He lived in the hills. He loved it. So, Sid, you're a gentle soul. You lived a life, man. I mean, the guy's worked for 75 years, and he'll be missed.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got?
Let's do this one real quick because it's a fun video to watch, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Sabrina Carpenter was put on blast by some fans for giving her honest reaction to a Coachella fan that she heard yodeling over her performance at Coachella this weekend. Here's the video.
I think I heard someone yodel. Is that what you're doing? I don't like it.
It's my culture.
That's your culture, is yodeling?
All right, shut up,
we're
bitch.
good here.
I don't give a fuck about your culture.
Yeah, so-
Buy a fucking ticket and shut up and let the bitch play her keyboard.
Yeah.
Did you notice the stage and all this stuff that's on it, like microphones and instruments?
Yeah. Well, she's being called
Shut up.
Islamophobic because this is called Zaruta. It is a form of celebration where she yells "my culture." The problem is if there was like some Christian dude in the back with like a set of lederhosen on, and then that dude was out there, they'd go, "Hey, shut the fuck up and get to the back of the crowd. Stop interrupting. Don't you notice she's at it?" It's not like the crowd, there's a whole band. It's her at a piano having a nice somber moment. Can you just shut your mouth and not be an asshole?
Yes. And also, no one gives a fuck about your culture. Shut up.
Yeah.
Listen, I am so this between Islam and the LGBT or the trans, I've got an impacted ass full of all you. I don't shut the fuck up. I don't need to think about you every 10 minutes. And if you want to be offended, go back to your shithole country and be offended there where you'll be beheaded.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Carolla out. All right. This weekend, Desert Ridge Improv. Rudy's going to be there.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Early show Friday is sold out. We probably should have checked, but we don't. That's the way we roll. But there's tickets to all the other ones. I should talk to someone about checking that online thing, shouldn't I?
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to put this one on you for not having that conversation with people, Adam.
I'm going to remind me to bring that up. You can go to adamcarolla.com for all the live shows. John Crist, you can go John Crist Comedy. Rudy, what's your website?
Yeah, rudypavichcomedy.com.
So, till next time, it's Adam Carolla for Rudy Pavich and John Crist saying mahalo.